So, what happens when the so-called rules of a fight just completely vanish? When a competition turns into something way, way darker. Today, we're diving deep into Wrestling Weekend, a piece of fiction that throws us right into this brutal underground tournament to really explore that terrifying line between performance and pure, unfiltered pain.
Just kick some ass. That's it. That's the one and only rule given by Josh, the guy running the whole show. And with that one line, any idea you might have had of a fair fight is just shattered. We are immediately plunged headfirst into a world where the only thing that matters is raw, chaotic violence. All right, so that leads to the big question, right? Who on earth would willingly sign up for this? Who steps into a ring with no rules? Well, that's exactly what we're going to get into in this first section. It all starts with a pretty desperate proposition.
Meet our narrator. He's a bit of a contradiction. On one hand, he's a PhD student, totally buried in academic books. But on the other, he's got this past as a pro wrestler called the Defenseman. And the most important part? He is flat broke. We're talking less than $90 to his name. So when he sees an ad for a no-holds-barred tournament promising a big payout, it doesn't really feel like a choice. It feels like his only option.
So the story sets up this classic David versus Goliath showdown. On one side, you've got our underdogs, who call themselves the Skinheads. That's our academic narrator and his new partner Patrick, who's an ex-Army Ranger. And then you have the reigning champs, the Titans of Torture. And these guys, Ben and Magic, look like they walk straight out of a nightmare. It's the perfect setup, right? The underdogs versus the sadistic favorites. But trust me, this story is about to take all those expectations and just completely demolish them.
But before we get to the fight, you really have to understand the world they've just stepped into. Because in this story, the setting isn't just some random background. No, it's basically a character in itself, this completely isolated place with its own brutal culture.
Yeah, forget everything you know about shiny stadiums with bright lights. This is a 10-acre farm deep in southern Ohio. It smells like stale beer and gasoline. You've got about 100 cars and trucks just parked in a clearing, surrounded by tents, coolers, and campfires. And right at the center of it all is this beat-up old wooden barn, and inside, a rusty, completely unpadded boxing ring. This place is its own little world, totally cut off from everything else.
And running this whole chaotic scene is Josh, the organizer. The narrator's first impression of him says it all. He thinks the guy must have $2,000 up his nose. It's just a perfect way to describe his manic, totally unpredictable energy. He's the ringmaster of this whole circus, and honestly, his wild vibe just makes everything feel that much more dangerous. And now, it's showtime. The performance begins. Because in this world, a fight isn't just a fight, it's a spectacle. It's a performance of pain. And tonight, the show is about to take a seriously horrifying turn.
So Josh actually lays out some rules. A 30-minute time limit. You can win by making your opponent submit or by handcuffing both of them. And for just a second, it almost feels like a real, structured competition. It creates this thin little layer of legitimacy. But as we are about to find out, in this ring, rules are made to be broken.
And for a little while, it looks like that classic underdog story is actually coming true. Our guys, the Skinheads, are dominating. Their skill and their teamwork are just overwhelming the champions. The crowd, which was hostile at first, is actually starting to cheer for them. It really feels like we're watching this triumphant victory unfold. But yeah, in this story, nothing is ever what it seems. And then it happens. Everything changes. That line between a competition and something so much darker doesn't just get blurry, it gets violently erased. You have no idea how much pain you're going to be in. Chilling, right? With those words from Ben, one of the champions, the fight is effectively over. This isn't about winning anymore, it's about inflicting as much suffering as humanly possible. And just like that, the power dynamic completely flips. The narrator is cuffed to the turnbuckle. He's totally helpless, forced to just watch as his partner is systematically, brutally taken apart. He's not a fighter anymore, he's a captive audience, and the show is really just getting started. So, Patrick screams his submission. He gives up. The referee even signals for the bell. By all accounts, the fight should be over right now. But in this ring, the rules are just a suggestion. The bell never rings. Instead, the timekeeper's voice just cuts through all the noise, and all he says is 6.
6 minutes left? The narrator's panicked question confirms all of our worst fears.
The rules were a complete lie. That 30-minute time limit? It wasn't a boundary. No, it was a guarantee. A guarantee of 6 more minutes of pure torture.
Let's be clear. The fight is over. The assault begins. For the next 6 minutes, what we witness is just a horrifying display of sexualized violence, all done for the entertainment of a cheering crowd and a grinning organizer. The performance has become an absolute nightmare. So the violence in the ring eventually ends, but this story is far from over. Because now, in the quiet of a tent, away from that screaming crowd, the true climax of the whole narrative unfolds. And it doesn't happen with a punch, but with a quiet, absolutely devastating choice. As they're literally being dragged from the ring, broken and bleeding, Josh, the organizer, just showers them with praise. That was great, guys. Fucking great. The disconnect is terrifying. He doesn't see their trauma at all. He just sees a fantastic show. Their suffering was just a product. And boy, did the audience love it. And the toll is just immense. Physically, sure, you have injuries to the groin, the back, ribs. But the emotional scars, those run so much deeper. Patrick is left with this profound sense of humiliation, just silent pain. And the narrator is haunted by the trauma of his own helplessness. The show has broken them, both inside and out. So what do you do after you've been to hell and back? I mean, the logical choice is to run, right? Get in the car and get as far away from that place as possible. But this story isn't about logic. It's about the very strange and often contradictory ways that we respond to trauma.
Is there going to be a next time? The narrator asks, and you can tell he's almost afraid of what the answer might be. But Patrick's response is even more shocking. He just asks, "Why? Do you want to leave?" And then the narrator says, "No way." And in that one moment, they both realize the unthinkable. They're not going anywhere. They're staying. Not to win, but just to endure.
And their decision to stay, it forces us to ask a really difficult question. In a world that is literally built on pain, what does it actually mean to fight back? Is it about escaping the violence, or is it about finding some way to endure it, to survive it on your own terms? This story, it doesn't offer any easy answers. It just leaves us to grapple with this really unsettling idea that sometimes, maybe the only way to win is to simply refuse to be broken.